Hello, merhaba.
My name is TANYA, and I'm in my fourth year majoring in legal studies at the University of Waterloo in Ontario, Canada.
My name is Rajab. I'm a first-year medical student at Queen's University, also in Ontario, Canada. And today our presentation is called Circasian Youth Identity in the Diaspora, Challenges and Recommendations.
Although Dana and I each grew up in different countries, we have come to realize the commonalities and shared experiences we've had merely for being Circasian youth living in the diaspora. While we've engaged in multiple conversations with our friends on the challenges of preserving our Circasian identity while living away from the homeland, we wanted to explore whether these challenges are truly universal experiences shared among Circasian youth from all around the world. We have since started our own qualitative research called Insights from Circasian Youth, Challenges in Preserving Circasian Identity in the Diaspora.
To gain an international perspective on the challenges faced by Circasian youth, we interviewed 8 countries, including Canada, the United States, the UAE, Jordan, Sweden, Turkey, Germany, and the United Kingdom. In total, we had 20 participants and focused on 6 major themes, including identity, language, culture, the homeland, community, and Circasian associations. In line with the theme of the symposium, Circasians in Diaspora, Challenges and Solutions, we will be discussing some of our findings pertaining to the challenges faced by Circasian youth. Based on the findings of our study, we identified 3 major challenges faced by Circasian youth, with the first being the inability to speak and or understand the Circasian language. Across all the countries we interviewed, the issue of not speaking or fully understanding the Circasian language was a prominent barrier for youth in preserving their identity. Around 65% of the youth did not speak or fully understand the Circasian language, even though 75% of those youth had at least one parent in the household that was fluent in Circasian. We pulled out direct quotes from our interviews on the opinions of our participants when talking about how the not knowing the Circasian language affected their ability to preserve their identity. And these quotes were, "If I knew the language, I would be more connected. Not knowing the language makes me feel upset. And finally, our language is important to our culture. If the language fades away, our entire culture is at risk." That led us to ask, why do some Circasian youth lose touch with the Circasian language? And our findings showed 4 potential answers. The first being accessible resources. Although there are resources that exist that teach the Circasian language, many youth are either not aware of them, can't use them, can't understand them, or may not be able to find them. Another reason is utility. Not having to use the Circasian language outside the household frequently may decrease the youth's motivation to learn. Inherent motivation. Some youth may not have the inherent motivation to take the time and dedication to actually learn the Circasian language. And finally, importance. They may not recognize how important our language is to the preservation of the Circasian culture. So altogether, it seems that accessibility to adequate resources, utility, inherent motivation, and the importance of the Circasian language all influence youth to lose touch with their native language.
And the second challenge we found is the lack of youth connection to their Circasian communities. In countries where Circasian communities are not prevalent or families are geographically dispersed, the absence of a Circasian community presented a hurdle to youth's connection to their Circasian identity. For example, they might not have Circasian friends living in close proximity to them, or they might not be able to engage in activities or social events with other Circasians. And one of the participants mentioned, "My Circasian friends understand how hard it may be to fit in society." However, we also found that even in cases where there is a big Circasian community, there are some difficulties maintaining a connection with their community. For instance, constant criticism and high expectations appears to be a recurrent issue, as it was raised multiple times in reference to multiple communities in the diaspora. And one of the participants mentioned, there's always criticism which drives away the youth. The youth don't feel like they can always meet the expectations of the older generations. And as we know, Circasian youth today are the most impacted by globalization as they are immersed in diverse societies and cultures that play a significant role in shaping their unique identities. Therefore, the influence of these surrounding cultures on one's identity presents a prominent challenge to youth and their connection to their Circasian identity. While most Circasian youth have expressed their pride in being Circasian, they have also recognized the influence and impact of other cultures onto their own ideas and beliefs and values. For instance, when asked, are you more impacted by the Circasian culture or the culture of the country you live in, the majority of the participants have indicated the important roles that both of the cultures play. That said, it is much easier to blend in with the culture of the country you live in to best fit in with society. And as one of the participants expressed, if you don't grow up with a connection to the homeland, you will be pulled to the culture closest to you.
Now that we've discussed the three major challenges that we found in our study, we've also developed 3 recommendations that we can enact in our own Circasian communities. The first recommendation is to help youth develop a deeper emotional connection to their culture by instilling Circasian values and passing down stories about our history and traditions. Rather than merely placing pressure on Circasian youth to get involved in their communities, it's vital that youth are first connected to their identity and understand the importance of preserving it. The second recommendation is to increase collaboration with youth by delegating more tasks and responsibilities, as well as including them as decision makers and board members for issues regarding youth. Giving interested youth more responsibility and coming up with event ideas and organizing youth events in their own communities can expose them to the Circasian culture more often. Perhaps other youth will also see the growing number of opportunities to get involved and shift their motivation as well.
Our third and last recommendation entails using the power of social media to connect youth from all around the world together and enhance the existing technology to be more accessible and user-friendly. As Circassians lack a sovereign state and are dispersed all around the world, emphasis on building an international community is necessitated, especially among youth. During the interviews, several youth have highlighted the importance of social media to connect youth together and have shown interest in wanting to build friendships with Circassians from different parts of the world. This could be implemented through the use of virtual social networking events organized by Circassian organizations and associations. Moreover, as mentioned earlier, the lack of accessible resources presents a significant barrier for Circassian youth who want to learn the Circasian language. Even if there are resources available, there is not enough publicity and advertising that reaches youth or appeals to them. Hence, the existing platforms need to be more accessible and user-friendly. And this could be facilitated through the collaboration with Circasian youth, who generally have a better understanding of the younger audience and ways to appeal to them.
Before we end our presentation, we wanted to share a meaningful question that we asked the youth, which was, what does being Circasian mean to you?
And based on the responses we've accumulated so far, the most frequently used words were resilience, values, identity, pride, culture, community, connection, and dance. Seeing the youth's responses made us feel very hopeful and positive about the future. And with all that being said, this study only marks a stepping stone towards the necessary emphasis and research on Circasian youth.
In the coming months, we will be finishing the remaining interviews in our study, so stay tuned for an overview of our complete findings in the 3rd International Circasian Conference in 2022. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.